question.
Do you want me to go live?
Yes, yes, go live. The lesson for folks is when you're clicking on things and you still have
Fucking
to click on
thing.
the right thing, scroll down. There's always
Here
something you
you
got to
go.
scroll down and click on. All right, folks, we are live. Welcome to America's Talk Show. To join us live on air from Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern, visit the link in the description. We will try to call on people in the order they've raised their hands. However, we do encourage respectful crosstalk. Unlike some, we also pay attention to the chat, so use it to get our attention. Now, let's see who's the first to raise their hand. All right, we ditched the AI. Everyone was waiting for that nice AI video, but okay.
I don't want it. He's
Who do we got
fucked
today?
up you. Fucking thing. Oh, there it is.
I'd like to welcome some new folks. And oh, Jen. All right, Jen, go ahead, and then we'll welcome some new folks. Unmute, please.
I was enjoying the convo on the show today about the journalists in Washington. You know, I don't think they actually believe that they are biased or did anything wrong or missed anything or were in error. I don't see them as being naive. I see them as being sort of actors, I guess. Any other thoughts on that?
I liked when
I
Sean
think they
said
know
that
they're
the White
biased.
House Correspondents' Dinner is like finished. It's over. It's just going to be like a ceremonial get together, and all the people that matter are going to meet elsewhere. That was kind of an extension of that conversation.
Yeah.
I just think that White House Correspondents' Dinner is stupid. So
I think they know they're biased. They're just contemptuous of other people's views.
Well, I think that's definitely contemptuous of it. That's for sure.
Professor Kenny with your hand up.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. I think the problem is they were so anti-Trump and during 1.0 Trump that um, they really thought they were going to crush him to the point that they had no idea he was going to get elected in 2016, and then for him to make this comeback and get elected the second time around after, in 2024, after that disastrous Biden administration. I think it's very hard for people. I think Stephen hit it dead on. They're just contemptuous of other people's opinions. And I think it's also hard for when you're so sold on something, it's hard for you to turn around and change. And I think that's the problem. They triple down on bad mouthing this guy on everything he does. And they never give him any grace towards anything. When I read, I subscribe to the Washington Post, I subscribe to the New York Times, and when I read their headlines, their first two paragraphs, whatever the subject is a bad mouthing of Trump and what and his administration and what he's doing, and then they'll get to, but he's doing this and this is okay, kind of thing. So it's so people don't when people read the first two paragraphs. A lot of people don't have time, whatever. They read the first two paragraphs and that's what they live off of. They don't get to the actual story. So it's just the legacy media. It's a total disservice to this country. And you have it on both sides. I'm not going to say you don't have it on both sides. You have it on both sides. That's why it's up to us to try and find those reporters and those uh, outlets that give us down the middle. Like I've said in the past, I watch News Nation. I don't watch Fox or Newsmax or CNN or MSNBC. I will dabble in those just to see what they're doing. But if I want information, I'll watch News Nation. I think it's more down the middle, and I'll go on the internet and I'll get both sides. But it's just we're not as a public, we're not being served at all.
Thank you, Professor Kenny. Brian, unmute, please. Brian S. Oh, there you go.
Hi, thanks for taking my comment here. I work in the nuclear power industry. So we meet once a year, about 5,000 of us for a week in Bethesda, Maryland. And I was there last month. And to me, it was amazing how many people in DC knew that Biden wasn't capable of doing his job. It was just such a casual conversation. You know, the spin I got was he's got good days and bad days, but it is what it is. I am floored by that. As you know, I voted for this guy, or I didn't vote for this guy. Who was running the office? And I just can't believe it was such a casual, lazy attitude where people don't get it. And the second part of this is what's sad is so many people, so many older people, and I'm not trying to categorize anybody, but my mom's 90, God bless her soul. She gets her news from The View, ABC, NBC, and she just thinks whatever they say is gospel. And until I started pointing her in the right direction, like at some websites, she couldn't believe it. I sent her to Dr. Phil to see the interview with Trump, and I sent her to Joe Rogan and see the interview with Trump. And she changed her mind, almost, I would say, probably with a week, saying, "Oh my God, it's not as bad as I thought." So I don't know what we do in this country, but there's a lot of people that still think that the news is giving them the information. And I'm sorry. I mean, they're not hitting it. So that's my point. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Chris, unmute, please.
I think you guys are pretty creative in how you interpret some things. I'll tell you why the media probably felt justified in trying to crush.
Oh, don't know what happened, Chris. You got muted. Unmute, please.
I'll tell you the reason that the media probably felt justified in trying to crush Trump.
Anything from you. Leave me the fuck alone.
Sorry about that, Chris.
I still want people to answer this question. Did we ever think we would be sitting on TV or watching TV, seeing a mob try to break into the Capitol building, stating that they wanted to physically attack people? You've got senators running down hallways and hiding on the benches, and your president watching it, being implored to come out and do something against it and doing nothing for hours. And then the U.S. Senate, McConnell, and even little punk Lindsey Graham gets on TV and says that he was responsible for it, he did it, and I'm through with him. And then all of y'all come back and want to make him president again. That's why the media thought that the country was going to say, "Oh my God, we can't have him be president again." But somehow all of you have figured out a way to justify it.
Chris, how many
It's quite the mystery.
How many
Quite the mystery.
How many FBI informants were there that day?
Oh, come on with that conspiracy crap. That is not what happened, and you know it. If you don't know it, you need to go get therapy. Sorry.
Okay, Professor
The
Kenny.
FBI agents did not do that.
Professor Kenny had a response for you. Unmute, please.
Yeah. I understand Chris's frustration with January 6th. I know that's a lot for the left. But what about how they've gone? They went after Trump from day one, So what about the Russian collusion and all of that stuff? I mean, it's nice that we could all cherry pick our issues with Trump. Somebody's got to mute. There's somebody out there who has
Sorry
to
about
mute.
that, Professor.
Okay?
We got it. Continue.
Okay. So, they went after Trump from day one, okay? And that wasn't fair to the American people. He got elected. They should have let him lead and see. They went after him with this Russian collusion bullshit. And then, then you win, you get Biden, and you have the Hunter Biden laptop and the USAID stuff that, they're splitting money. And and then you got a guy who's not capable of being president, and it's being covered up, but nobody talks about that on the left. That's what kills me.
A quick,
I'm
quick
fine with
response.
Chris's argument about January 6th. I'm absolutely
Quick
fine with his
response.
argument. I think that's a fair argument, and if he could have been disqualified for being president, because a lot of people feel that way, that's fine. But he wasn't disqualified, and I keep bringing up the same thing with all of this stuff you guys talk about on the left. How did this guy get elected again? Okay, tell me how that happened. Okay, is it because you
Because
guys are
people
so
like a lot of y'all
wonderful?
on the call have certain agendas that you're so wed to that you don't care that he did what he did on January 6th, which was
And
not just another day.
all right, but
Okay.
What about Biden's mental acuity, Chris? I never hear you talk about that ever. And here's another point I want to bring up. Why didn't Kamala, why didn't Biden step aside and let her be president? If it was clear that your mental acuity is compromised and you can't do the job, why did he stay in the job? That was another thing that baffled my mind. I think it would have benefited Kamala and the Democrats a lot more if Biden would have stepped aside, invoked the 25th and said, you know what, I'm stepping out. She's going to be president. That would have gave her a little bit of credibility because she would have been commander in chief, and that might have helped her. But this whole idea that, all right, January 6th, yeah, that's a very fair argument. I'm not even going to argue against you. But what about the mental acuity and who's running the country? And listen how they literally attacked, they pick and chose the media, the Biden administration. So come on, it's the same on both sides. I'm tired of this bull crap. We are, as a people, are not being served properly. Period. Go ahead.
Steve and then Jen.
Well, Professor Kenny stole my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that, okay, fine, we can talk about January 6th. I understand, Chris, your position on that. How do you explain Russia, 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 uh, all the other things that the media was biased against? They weren't simply just reporting the facts. In fact, they were ignoring the fact. They didn't even want to go and look at whether these collusion claims were true or not. The other thing on regarding January 6th, part of the reason why I dismiss it is because of the reportage and the bias uh, for protesters during the Trump 1.0. I lived in Oregon most of my life, and they had 100 days of riots every freaking day. I worked downtown. I saw it happening. I didn't start carrying a gun regularly until I had to go downtown 3 days a week because I was afraid they were going to spill out onto the freeway and, pull me out of my truck. So this, there's a cognitive dissonance. I agree to some extent on both sides, but it is far more on the left. They just completely ignored everything that was going on. Anyway.
Thank you, Steve. Jen, patiently with her hand up.
In terms of Chris, look, I don't want to talk about any particular story on this because I don't necessarily disagree with you on some of the January 6th stuff. But when media started parroting talking points coming to them from the White House every day, and every media using the exact same talking points, saying the exact same thing, at that point, they are no longer journalists. They're marketers. They are the marketing arm of the White House. Now, can they be marketing arms of the White House? Yes. Just state you're a marketing arm of the White House. That's all you have to do. You're no longer journalists. You're going to speak truth to power, speak truth to power on both sides. I don't mind anybody going after Trump. It was the fact that they didn't go after Biden. They didn't go after Obama. Well, some did, not most didn't. I'm just saying, do your job. Do the job journalists are supposed to do. That's all. That's what I want. Journalists that are out there trying to take down whatever president is in office, every single one of them, but that's all.
Vincent, please unmute.
As so many of you know, I worked for media companies, for publicly traded media companies. I was not in editorial, I was in publishing. And so, I'm running the P&L. But in regard to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, in the 90s, there was nothing bigger than the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Don Imus was the host one year. And so back in the early 90s, mid 90s, everyone would listen to Imus, and Tim Russer would be on Imus always. And he had Bob Dole, he had everyone. Imus had everyone on, and then they would promote the Correspondents' Dinner. And like, for example, when JFK Jr. was alive, George Magazine, year after year, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I even went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Everyone went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It was a really big deal, and they would have it live on CNN. You would watch it live on CNN. This past year, so once Trump got elected in 17, as you know, the story goes, he got insulted at one of the White House Correspondents' Dinners, and Mark talked about it on Friday. Some people theorize that's why he ran for president. Whatever. So then, of course, once he got elected, he had no interest in the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And it's amazing to me how little coverage there was this past weekend. It was as if it didn't even exist. I mean, I never seen. This went from like on CNN live to this past weekend, no one even mentioned it. So it really is dead. And I mean, Mark didn't go. When Mark told us on Friday night he didn't go, he didn't want to go because there's no juice to the plate, the juice to it anymore. So and back on the press, I'm 68. I've mentioned it before, and a lot of baby boomers that are news junkies like me, they grew up watching Walter Cronkite and Brinkley and Huntley, and then eventually Rather, and they and then their parents had this had, their parents had the same outlook.
Excuse me, Vincent. Michael, I think you got to mute out, brother. We're catching some feedback from you.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
So I'll wrap it up, but I'm just saying that baby boomers are so, that followed the news, are so caught into last century's press and media. I have friends, they're still talking about William Safire. They're talking about reporters that have been dead for years, and the current group of reporters have no connection with the American icons. Let's be honest here. I mean, and and like somebody mentioned their mother. My mother passed away at 88 a couple years ago. She only watched ABC. Even when she was in the hospital, she only would watch ABC. She would watch The View every day. She only would watch the ABC News, local news in New York. She would only watch ABC Nightly News. And that's the way she was. And there's nothing I'm going to be able to explain to her otherwise. So it's a generational thing. And that's why you see people like my 27-year-old daughter, she's never watched the evening news. The last time she watched the news is when she moved out of here in 2016. These younger, people they don't watch any of the news, and they never read any newspapers. So it's a total fragmented media now.
Thank you, Vincent. And we're gonna use I skipped over the new ground rules, but we're going to try this 2-minute timer with a 1-minute grace.
Well,
bear with us. Thank you, Vincent. Michael?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you, I apologize for earlier. My system kept switching the live mic to the anyway. So okay, I heard January 6th. Okay, January 6th. Here's the thing, guys. Okay, you had January 6th. You had record-setting number of Democrat voters that voted for Joe Biden, and I'm not going to get into the election. The election was won fair and square by Joe Biden in 2020. That's a fact. Okay, you had the zenith of power. Then you squandered 4 years playing patty cake games with the media and all of that stuff going on. And then, of course, now we land back, and I'm just supposed to take the mainstream media at the face value of all these polls when they were dead wrong. They were dead wrong for months rolling up. Now we hindsight's 2020. We knew that those polls were off. It is. So I mean, we can relitigate this, but who's in power now? That's all that matters. And the other thing too is like I'm gonna believe the mainstream media because what is the number one goal that they have since he got elected? They couldn't wait. They like every week they were doing trial polls and different ways to package the data and all this other garbage. What's the number one goal that they want to drive every single night, which is the same thing that they did every other night for Trump's first term, which is Trump lowest approval ratings, Trump upside down, underwater, all this horse shit. All of it is horse shit. All of it. Maybe his numbers are down. I'm sure they are soft on some independent things because he has definitely not stopped. So I'm sure they are down a little bit, but it's not like he's down to 20%. No, 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 no. The Democrat Party has got to rebuild and figure its little self out uh, uh, like pronto. But the January 6th thing is like, okay, well, okay, then let's go back to the last major historical thing. Okay, if we're gonna do the January 6th thing, why is it, why is it that they, all
Oh,
right,
sorry
whatever.
about the sound. That was not supposed to happen. Sorry about that. But since it did happen, I'm going to call on Dean. He's been waiting patiently. I just want to clear that out. Apologies, folks.
No, you're fine. Appreciate it. I'm going to try to separate a couple of things when it comes to the media. That was actually one of the questions I put out. How fair or to the whatever that poll that Wick is going to do? How fairly do you think the media has covered the Trump administration the first 100 days? I'd love to see where that's at and uh, get some feedback. Hopefully, something about the media will be on that. I'm interested in not relitigating January 6th. That divided my household up. And I would say that the fact that he got back in office, if you're if the concern is with the electorate that put him into office, I think that's where your frustration should be. If it's to give the media a pass because that he made it back into office, and the media should be tougher on this because of what happened in the past. I would be happy to go back to the media that Vincent remembers, and that is a center left, at least on the surface, a center left media that was tough. Sam Donaldson, here's another one. He was tough on both sides, I thought. He gave Reagan a hard time, he gave Carter a hard time. That's what I would like to see. What I don't want to see anymore is I think Jen did a good job in sharing it. That just tell us who you are in advance. If you are trying to put your finger on the scale, that's fine. I don't consider you a journalist now. I consider you something, that should belong on MSNBC, and if you're on the right side, you belong on Fox or News Nation. But let's be honest about this. And the fourth estate needs to stop being a tool for just the left and need to fairly get the facts here on out.
Thank you, Dean. Luke, please unmute.
There we go. Hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, look, as somebody who's been in the journalism industry for a while, uh, I just go back to the press's promise after the Iraq War to be more honest and to be more, do more research into their stories, and they have failed to do that again and again. And the reason behind this, and I think I don't know if anybody wants to talk about this, is it's the internet. Because of the internet and because of social media, things have gotten worse and worse because they found out, and the New York Times had this trouble at the beginning, was they need the clicks. And whatever sells gets them the clicks. And so the issue has been then we can be a little bit more loosey goosey on what we talk about in the news. And so that's what's been going on is both on both the left and the right, because they both know I need to get a story out that makes the other person look bad because that's going to get the reads. And so this has been kind of the issue with the internet. And it's gone on with the Hunter Biden stuff. It's gone on with so many other things. I mean, I can count like 5 or 6 different examples of extremely bad journalism. And I mean, the Hunter Biden got, I know that the Russia thing got a Pulitzer Prize. And I think that's very insulting for a lot of people because it's like, I would like if it's honest, then we can discuss it and we can say, okay, why is this wrong? Why is this right? And we can argue about it. But when we have something that's just 100% false, it's just going to be insane. And I know that's what something that Joe Rogan and Murray, I forget his first name, had a big discussion over. And now Jordan Peterson's also having this issue is there are people who are taking advantage of the opportunity for people to take bad ideas and move it into their control of people. And I think this is something that we're going to have to look out for, especially with the right, because as it looks like the right is becoming what the left used to be with the wokeism.
Thank you, Luke. Dan, unmute, please. Unmute, please, Dan. It's there in the bottom left. The microphone. Let me do a request. Give us one. Bear with us, folks. This
Is that all right?
There we go.
Sorry.
It's all good.
All right. So the idea that the right paints about Russiagate, as if nothing, was going on. Trump stood next to Putin and said, "Russia, if you're listening, okay." And then the special counsel initiated criminal proceedings against 34 people, 7 U.S. nationals, 26 Russian nationals, 1 Dutch national, and 3 Russian organizations. And also, high-level people from Trump's campaign went to jail. Okay? Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos, and his campaign manager, I forget his name. So this idea that nothing happened during the whole Russia investigation is ridiculous. The second thing I wanted to say is I feel like every time the right complains about the media, they love to exclude propaganda networks like Fox News, OAN, and there's another one I can't think of now. So, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like everyone treats like the legacy media as just the Democrats, okay? The Republicans go to these networks to get their news, to Fox News, which is like the majority of it is just opinion or propaganda. So, I mean, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. But it's like we're all in these different realities, and I don't know. Go ahead.
Dan, would you care to comment on Carter Page? I think Jen Hudson mentioned in the chat about Hillary Clinton paying for that whole file. What was it, the PP Gate? Carter Page.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, all right, just throwing it out there. Chris, you had a hand up?
Yeah, I want to respond to a few things. So first of all, yeah, I think the media should have reported about Biden's frailty or whatever you want to call it, his being in and out of it. He clearly was out of it sometimes, in of it sometimes. Whatever it was, they should have reported it. But you're right. The media has been hounding Trump since the day he came down the escalator, and that's because people in New York knew who he is. And he finally proved who he was by his behavior on January 6th and some other instances. So I think they've been on the case. Also, when people try to equate the other riots, these other riots, Black Lives Matter, they were attacking buildings. They were not attacking our senators and congressmen and threatening to harm them physically. And I tell you this: if a Black Lives Matter rally had been beaten up on policemen for an hour, there would have been a lot of dead black folk from machine gun fire. That didn't happen that day, and it should have. When people say the Democrats squandered 4 years, I'll say this to Michael. Biden barely won in 2020, and Trump barely won in 2024. So there's been no massive shift because some big thing happened, and you need to stop pretending that it did. And finally, um, I don't really care what the media does. I care what normal people like some of y'all do when you want to diminish the fact that you saw a sitting president do nothing when his vice president and your senators and congressmen were being physically attacked, and he sat there and did zero. That is the depth and epitome of a scumbag in the White House, and y'all shouldn't have voted for him again. That's what we're mad about. Dean hit it right. We're focused on what is going on in your heads that you would put somebody like that back in the White House again, regardless of what the media tells you about any other topic. And I'm at zero. Thank you.
Chris, who was before I call on Sebastian? Who was physically attacked?
You mean all those policemen that were attacked, and
Uh,
Romney was running down a hall, and you saw congressmen hiding under chairs and in the chamber because they thought the doors were going to be breached. Did you not see any of that?
I thought you
They
said
were scared for their lives. They were scared for their lives, and you know it. If you don't know it, you need to go back and study some history for about a day.
Okay, but for the record, there was no politician that was physically attacked that day, correct?
No, because the police did their job and kept them out of there well enough.
Okay, all right. Sebastian, please.
I think it's first, this is my first time joining this, and this is great. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share a few thoughts. First, White House Correspondents' Dinner. The difficulty that they have is that it is so insular. The people that live and work around Washington, and they're trying to preserve what was used to be called official Washington, but they are having a very hard time realizing that fewer and fewer people are going to defer to the professional deep state swamp roundabout revolving door groups that have led governments and large institutions in our nation's capital. The Beltway's decline in influence is reflected in the decline in relevance of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I counted no U.S. senators and 4 U.S. members of the House who decided to publicize that they were actually there. It's a reflection of how, in some ways, it's an electoral liability to even attend the event for Republicans. And it does not animate Democrats or third parties to be associated with a dress-up party. The second thing is that the 100 days are going to be an interesting test of the Trump administration's ability to penetrate the negative zeitgeist and find information to share with its base that might inspire hope that the early decisions are making some impact, are making some headway. I personally consume the information about the administration directly from the departments and discern what may apply or not, and then measure it against various sources of reporting information. I don't even like to use the term journalism. I don't think of journalism as a profession personally. I think of media organizations as publishing information. You hear it, you discern it, maybe it applies to you, maybe it doesn't. It's very difficult to understand a lot of these discussions, that are coming out of the national news because they have such a complicated direct impact on an individual. So the 100 days, I think, is a good strength test for the Trump administration to both rally its base, see what the independents are looking like. There are going to be a lot of negative impacts to Virginia as a result of one big beautiful bill in Doge. So there are elections in Virginia at the state level, both in the legislature and in the statewide, the Commonwealth-wide offices of Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, and Governor. So this is going to be an interesting test of that, I think. And then lastly, as I have continued to share with Two-Way, there's a very unique dynamic going on with the younger African American community and Donald Trump as a leader of this country. This weekend, he extended support to Shador Sanders in his quest to be drafted. And he brought up his relationship with Deion Sanders, and it transformed the entire discussion. So much so that one of the most active Republicans who owns an NFL franchise, the Haslam family of Tennessee owns the Cleveland Browns. They drafted him after President Trump put out a truth post. That means a lot to young men, specifically young men who have played football, follow football, or are in the pipeline of football currently. And it really reset the narrative about the president's engagement with African Americans and cultural, kind of being culturally relative. And additionally, it pushed the ratings up for the NFL draft to 1 million more. There are 13.2 million people that watched the 3 days of the NFL draft, which were 1 million more people than the entire NBA playoffs this weekend. So I think those are very interesting facets that speak to Trump as a cultural figure, speak to the Republican strength testing on the 100 days, and then the declining relevance of official Washington as represented by the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Really glad you're here. I recognized you from the morning show, and it's always a pleasure to hear you speak. Brian, with your hand up, please unmute, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, the reason Trump won is because American people were hurting. I'm guessing people that voted for Trump, the people that are hurting, are not on this call. I volunteer at a food pantry, and I saw it firsthand where people came in and said, "Thank God you're here. We couldn't afford to pay our gas bill or eat." Okay, so now, so then basically I start listening to these people, and they're saying, "Well, guess what? We got to make a change. We're going to vote for Trump, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell my neighbor. I don't want anybody to know. I want to keep a low profile." Polls are dead. Nobody's going to be telling you they voted for Trump. That's why he won. I do business around the whole country. I get to talk to individuals. I see what they're saying. Number two, polls now, people see Teslas being burned even when they were bought before Elon got involved with the White House. So you think someone's going to stand up and say, "Yeah, I support this"? I mean, I know a lot of Democrats that like what's being done, but they already told me, "I'm not bringing this up." People are crazy. People are getting shot, threatened, their houses SWAT. So until the American people understand, until they come up with a better way of polling, I don't think you're going to get the truth out of it. And the bottom line is, hey, the guy won. People right now, do I like everything he does? No. But guess what? He gets things done, and that's what I voted for. That's what I'm looking for. So, and there's a lot of other Americans that were hurting, that were living paycheck to paycheck, that voted for him because, quite frankly, Biden wasn't cutting it. And number two, on the press, face it, they censored it. Had the Hunter laptop come out and people talked about it, because now they know it was real, Biden would have never won. That would have swayed the vote because the margin was so thin. And the next story's out now is this Burisma. This is just starting to hit the wires. And USAID, how he got some of his money to start up a company. We'll see if the press covers that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And just curious if Dan or Chris have any issue with Twitter suspending Trump on January 6th when he said go home. The most important message he could have delivered that day, go home. And that was the only form of communication back then. There was no Truth Social, but Twitter suspended his account before that could happen. Before we get to Luke, any from Dan or Chris? No? Okay. All right. Luke can Dan unmute, please. And then we'll get to Luke.
He took like 3 hours because he was being pressured by his people to say, go home. I mean, come on.
But okay, but Twitter suspend, so that message never got out because Twitter suspended him first. So didn't Twitter jump the gun there?
I mean, I don't know that to be correct. I'll take your word for it. So I don't know much about what Twitter did, but I'll take your word for it. The thing I did want to say was back to January 6th. So if Biden had told his people to go to the Capitol and his people attacked police officers, those police officers for the next 4 years would be paraded on Fox News as heroes. But since Trump did it, not one of those police officers who were attacked have ever been interviewed by anybody on Fox or any of the right-wing networks. Okay? So this idea that the right wing is pro-police is a joke. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, Luke, unmute, please.
Well, I believe Trump actually did get his word out on Twitter, but I think he was blocked, I think like an hour or two right after he had shared it. So, because I remember a few people were able to share it, and then all of a sudden his account was frozen. So, look, I don't want to talk about January 6th because both sides have done terrible things for people. I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse, we've got that. Chaz, I can talk tons of time about Chaz. The Portland riots, I could talk tons of that. I could talk about Chicago during the riots. I mean, the thing is like I don't care. If we're going to continue to talk about the past and talk about our grievances with each other, we're not going to get ahead. I mean, I'm living in China, and they're trying to just move ahead. And every time America seems to be getting ahead, some kind of controversy comes up, and we all break apart as a country. And I am tired of it because I do not want China to become the number one group. And they're starting to do as much as they can to become number one with BRICS and some other stuff, and with their rare earth mineral collection. So I am more like, okay, what can we do for the future? Because look, we both know that both sides have been doing some crazy lying. Both have some crazy people. But we got to get past those people. And I mean, that's kind of why we were talking about last week about Ro Khanna. We're like, why is Ro Khanna doing this crazy thing? Because he's so moderate and understanding. And I'm like, that's what we want, is we want people who are more understanding and better work together. Because if we're not going to do that, I mean, let's just keep fighting with each other and let some other country take over for us, and we'll just kill ourselves off with all this infighting. And that's pretty much all I want to say.
Thank you, Luke. Dean, please unmute.
Yeah, thanks. I like the conversation today. I too would love to get off of January 6th. I feel it's been litigated. You're still unmuted there, Dan. I feel it's been litigated. The electorate has said, in spite of that, we're going to bring Donald Trump back into the White House. I don't know if, and I can't remember who said it, but whoever said I don't care as much about the media as regular folk. I, as a regular folk, cannot influence the electorate. I'm more concerned with the media. And I would say that the media, the Fox News, the News Nation, the ONN, those have been a byproduct of a distrusting electorate. That has been a byproduct. Those entities came along because there were not voices on the right. The majority are Washington and New York focused, and they are. I'll be kind and say they're center left. I think they've been going more left. And I think it's very important that the fourth estate needs to come back in a strong, first it's got to clean itself out. That was a silly golf clap that they gave for Alex Thompson when he said that we missed the story and we need to do a better job. That was silly, and I'm still waiting for them to clean things up. Um, Bigger picture, two things. One, I can't believe I agreed with Dan today on the Ukraine Russia war. I think Ukraine, I'd rather spend some money and see them clean that up and stay involved with and make sure that something bigger doesn't come out of it. I'd hate to see Russia take over all of Ukraine, so I'd rather spend the money now. And then second, I'm interested in, I don't know if you guys caught it last Monday when the two stories came out about Pete Hegseth from Politico and New York Times about, it was almost like it was coordinated. Then the Pope died and Smirkanish had a post that said, boy, we'd all be talking about Pete Hegseth today. He dodged a bullet because the Pope died. And I thought in that, and then today, where all the pictures were lined up that Caroline Levitt, or the communications arm of the White House, put some stuff out. I saw that, or I thought, here's my big question: is the media, or is the narrative for us, is it orchestrated or is it more organic? Because it truly feels more orchestrated, and that's something I hope to bring up today, but maybe tomorrow. Maybe later in the week.
So, a question for Dean before we get to Raleigh. So, some may know Ben Shapiro is my frenemy, fellow UCLA alma mater, and we tiffed over the Iraq War. This is back in 2000, right, where I was definitely against the Iraq War, and Ben was definitely for it. Since then, Dean, has Ben ever reviewed his position? I feel like he's maintained that it was right for Saddam to go, and that Iraq is better off today than it was.
Yeah, I follow Ben Shapiro, and does he give? I would say his view is probably, I can't speak for the guy, but I think his view is more nuanced than it has been in years before. Here's the good. Notice that he'll say many times two things can be true. Yes, it was right to go in. No, it was not right to stay as long as we did. I think it would be more nuanced.
Okay. And for the record, I believe it was completely the wrong thing to go in, and Iraq was handed over to the Muslim Brotherhood. And people can watch the Valuetainment Patrick Ben David interview with the Uday Hussein lookalike. I would put it in the top 10, top 5, maybe top 3 YouTube interviews I've ever seen. Just absolutely mind blowing for me. And that is still a bitter, what happened back then is I would like to apologize to Iraqis, though it's not me or anyone in this room, but I just think it was horrible what happened. Raleigh?
Yeah, I just wanted to say on the discussions of the media, nearly every metric and measurement you look at when you look at like the polling and trust in the media, it's way, way down. When you look at the ratings, especially for like MSNBC and CNN, they're way, way, way down, even more so than Fox. So you can't just say, well, that's cord cutting. And like, I mean, every way you look at it, this institution that was very, very strong just 4 or 5 years ago, it really doesn't hold the same sway that it did. And the Washington Correspondence Center is a good example of that. A lot of people were skipping it. It's kind of irrelevant now. I mean, we've all just kind of moved on. It's irrelevant. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I'll yield my time to Chris.
Chris?
So a few things. First of all, just so y'all know, Sebastian, the young brother that's on here, we know each other. I hired his brother years ago. But I would say to Sebastian about his comments about what young Black men are thinking. When you get enough young Black men to vote for Republicans to get above the 17% of Blacks in general, men and women, who voted Republican who are under the age of 30. So let me repeat that. Blacks in the last election under the age of 30 voted 83% for the Democrats. So whatever the young black men are doing, it's not enough of it, and it's not enough of it compared to the black women who outvote them to sway the young black vote significantly in the Republicans' camp. Point two, and this is to Dean. You said the electorate, looked at January 6th, and the electorate has said we still want him in. Well, as I keep reminding you, the electorate by a hair against a sorry Democratic candidate. I've said repeatedly the Democrats should not have run Kamala. I don't think Trump would be in the White House if they not run Kamala. But the most important thing that you guys are missing, and I'll just say it this way, we're not going to end up working together all that well, the two sides. And here's why. Because a lot of Democrats would be fine if y'all had chosen Nikki Haley or Bush or any normal Republican. But when you choose an extremist like Trump, who embraces the white nationalists, who claims he doesn't know who David Duke is when it's convenient, who has Charlie Kirk as one of his inner circle. I heard Halpern on Megyn Kelly's show this weekend said he thought that Kirk was part of Trump's three-person board of directors. We have some issues with y'all for choosing him as your standard bearer. That's why we keep harping on it. You should have chosen another Republican. We think the fact that you chose him says something about what's going on in some of your voters' heads. And whatever that is, we find it despicable. And I'm not saying that's for all of you, but you've married up with some folk that we have no respect for, and that ain't changing.
I appreciate you making the distinction that some of us are normal and not picking who is normal and who's not. Tongue in cheek there, Chris. I like talking to you. I like having the conversation with you. I just one question for you. Do you believe the media then is justified? And this is going back to what Mark said. He believes, Mark Alperin during the morning show believes that they were trying to put their finger, the media in general was trying to put their finger on the scale, not give any bad press to, and I might be overstating this, not give any bad press to Biden because they did not want to give any good news cycles to Trump. Do you believe them to be, assuming that that's true, just from Mark, was the media justified in doing that?
No, I don't think they should have done that. I think they should have used that early to force Biden not to run and to get Kamala out of there. That would have been a better strategy. So
I
no, I
think
don't
we're
think
on
they
the
should have
same
done that.
page here. I think we're on the same page here that the media, as a true fourth estate, calling balls and strikes, and everyone can have their pseudo journalist on either side of the aisle, but having that strong fourth estate is vital for, we got to be able to trust where we're getting our news from. In
Agreed.
order for, yeah, I'll just leave it at
Agreed.
that. I'm going to take the win right there. Thanks, Chris.
Chris, real quick, why should the media have a strategy in elections?
Well, because I do think the media, when you can report truth on both sides, but still have an opinion that one of these people is a threat to democracy. I'll give you an example. The war on Vietnam turned when Walter Cronkite basically said, they lying. We're not gonna win this war. I don't care what else they tell you. Now, people trusted Cronkite, but he took a side at a point. I think the media, the journalists, a good journalist can take a side if he knows something so bad about one side. But I think he needs to report the bad on both.
Okay, real quick. I don't mean to interrupt too much. When has the media taken a side on a position that is the right's position?
I can't think of one lately.
Neither can I.
The strongest one was the healthcare summer in 2020, I think. The long hot summer of 2020. Or not 2020, 2010, excuse me. That's the last time I can remember, Steve.
Okay, James, let's see what James has to say here.
Well, welcome, Sebastian and Brian. It's good to see some new voices here. They hated, the media hated Reagan. Someone brought up Sam Donaldson earlier, and Sam could be tough on the other side, but the media hated Reagan. they were not as hateful toward George Bush because he started acting more like them. They really hated Bush Jr., but and they didn't like McCain. They didn't like Romney, although they tend to, after these guys lose or out of office, they tend to kiss up to them, and they like them more. Donald Trump is a mercenary, as far as I'm concerned. We had to hire him because everybody else in the Republican Party in leadership position, the McCains, the Romneys, the Bush, that whole establishment group, while they were pretty solid on principles, our core principles, they supported lower tax, they supported a lot of that stuff, but they were getting more and more out of touch with a lot of Republicans who didn't think we should go over and jump in every little war in the Middle East. They were making as much money as anybody off China. Look who Mitch McConnell married. So they weren't as worried about China. So you just kind of get to a point where when we had these 17 candidates in 2016, I didn't think Donald Trump would get the nomination. I did think he would shake up the race, and he did. And I'm glad he did. And while I haven't voted for him yet in a Republican presidential primary, I voted for him all 3 times. And by the way, had they elected Ron DeSantis or Chris Christie, they'd have hated him just as much. So Chris and others, I've been around long enough to see they tend to kind of hate everybody. They just really hate him because he's one of the only Republican in my lifetime that just basically turns around and tells them this. And they don't like that. Maybe a lot of people don't like it. But that's why we hired him. He was a mercenary.
Hey, Jim, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
What do you think McCain or Romney or George W. would have had as a response if somebody had asked him, what's your opinion of David Duke? Would they have said, oh, I'm not sure I know who that is?
Is that all you got?
Yes or no? Because
Is
he's
that
a
all
race
you had?
baiter. And the fact that
Answer
that's
the
not
question.
enough for you makes me wonder about what's in your head,
Well,
Jim.
you know what?
See, your response to me saying he's playing race games to get Southern whites to
No,
vote for him,
here's the thing, Chris.
when you diminish it, that tells me
No, I'm not
something about
diminishing it.
you, Jim Jean.
I'm not diminishing it. Here's what
You
my deal
did. You asked me if that's all I got. That's a
That's all you
diminishment.
got. Because
That's enough.
hang on, all Democrats ever have is race, climate change, LBQT, and now they have added, for some reason,
Democracy,
we love immigrants. That's
democracy,
yeah, I
free
was
and
gonna say,
fair
let's get to it.
elections,
So
free and fair elections.
So that's everything. Y'all can pick up the most arcane subject and you go back to it. I don't care what Donald Trump's response is to David Duke. I could
That's my
care
problem with
less.
you right there. Right
I
there.
don't care if you got a problem with me on it.
I know you don't. I don't care if you got one with me. That's America.
But like I say, we go back to race. We're gonna check race. Y'all, that's all y'all have. You do not have anything else. You cannot discuss economic policy. You can't hardly discuss foreign policy without.
We can discuss both of those better than most of
You
y'all
tie
on this
all those
call, so
things
don't tell me
right back
that.
into these 3 or 4 things. That's it. Like I say, we were forced to hire Donald Trump as that mercenary
No, you
because
weren't.
the McCains and all the rest of them, they wanted to make sure that they didn't offend y'all. And we were constantly being told we're stupid and we're racist and we just don't know what we're doing and we should believe everything the mainstream media tells us because y'all own the media, you own the universities, you own the culture, and you run the government because that's what y'all do. You finally got a guy in there, you can shake your head. We finally got a guy in there who says you're not going to do it anymore. And to quote Barack Obama, we won, y'all lost. Get your act together and come beat us again.
Ooh.
All right, we got Vincent going to be closing us out here, and let's see. Unmute, please.
If you remember, I do agree with Chris. I was a McCain supporter, and I want to remind Chris and the audience, in a debate in 2008, a woman said to the senator that Barack Obama was a Muslim and a bad man and blah, blah, blah. And he said, "Ma'am, please stop saying that. Senator Obama is a good man." And Chris probably can remember it better, the
I
paraphrase.
do.
Yeah, and it's true. McCain would have never, or the Bushes never would have ever done that race baiting. That's not what they believed in. So, and it was one of probably Senator McCain's finest moments defending Obama to that woman in that debate. Chris, what do you think? What did you think about that?
I loved McCain. I had dinner with McCain, his mother, and one other person, and it was a lovely experience.
Right. So, and I agree with Chris. And this came up on Mark's calls last week. There was a number of men and women that said the American people are tired of all this polarization and they want to come together. I don't believe that at all. I agree with Chris. Both sides are dug in pretty deep right now. And I kind of agree with Chris on this.
It
Let
ain't getting better.
give Dan. Thank you, Vincent. Dan.
Republicans voted for a guy who ran on birtherism for 2 years. So who's bringing up race?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Secondly, I forget my other point, but I just wanted to say that.
Dan, didn't Hillary Clinton's campaign, wasn't it? What's his name? That put out
One of her campaign staffers floated this idea. He was fired right away and never brought up again. Okay.
I just want to mention,
but Trump ran on it for 2 years straight. And
we're
Fox News
ending
ran
this
with
in a
it.
minute and 44 seconds.
Okay. All right. Mr. Ginn.
Well, we're never, Chris, I agree. We don't, I think we share some values.
Oh, we do.
But we do. But I'm at the age, and especially again, I don't like to get too much in what I'm dealing with here locally. But we don't share a lot of policies. And that's what, to me, the debate should always be about, is the policy. And we can argue our policies, whether it's economics, foreign policy, it doesn't matter. And do it in a fair manner, in a factual manner. And you present it to the people, and the people are going to vote one way or the other. And throughout our history, they tend to go one way for a while, and then they tend to go another way for another while. But when you automatically, it seems like automatic, you say racism, you go to race, you just tell the whole other side you're no longer a credible person to even discuss this with. And I've heard a lot of that in my life. I deal with it here locally. I have African American employees of this town who call me up and tell me how bad their job is, what's going wrong. And then we come to a council meeting, we try to correct it, and they stand up, applaud, and then they're told not to ever do that again. They'll come to the next council meeting and stand there in public and call me and others racist. That's how crazy that crap is.
All right. Thank you, James. Thank you.
Sorry if we cut anyone off, but that's a wrap. Remember, you can catch us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. It's your chance to join the conversation and have your voice heard. Just check the link in the description or visit americastalk.show. Together, through the free exchange of ideas, we can truly make America great again. Don't miss out. Tune in and be part of the dialogue.
Okay, we're off live here. So now everyone can cuss.
Yay, we can be our real racist lives now. We can all be racist again. Yeah, no, I'm joking.
Okay, if you guys want to hang out here for a bit, that's all right. we could go back live again. I was thinking maybe what
No, we should always have a piece where it's just us.
Yeah, because
Then we can have
look,
just peace, love, and understanding, and that's it.
Well, I was thinking this would be called like the bonus hour, and then we can, I don't know. We're still figuring out the format here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, this is all about like what we said. It's all about let's keep the conversation going, and let's keep it where people really think about the issues that we're talking about. Because if we're just